Mama told me when I was young, come sit beside me, my only son.
Another unsettling aspect of this case is involving Cindy Watts, Chris Watts' mother. Not so much the father, because he seems like a doormat and he seems to be walked over. He seems very soft-spoken and seems very docile for him to be a man, to be the head of the family. The mom seems to be the more assertive, headstrong, in control one. And it's funny because those qualities that she saw in Shanann that she hated are probably the ones that most reflected herself. That headstrong, strong-willed, assertive, bossy character personality that Shanann took on. And I find it interesting that Shanann could have even reminded Chris a lot of his mom, and his mom seems to be like a cavilling, needling figure who is kind of overbearing and kind of emasculates the men around her. And I think Shanann might have had a little bit of that quality inadvertently because she was such a boss. She was so in charge. She couldn't help but be herself. It's not her fault that she was assertive, that she was ambitious, that she was competent. And I think those qualities Chris might have saw in Shanann reminded him of his mom and reminded him of what he saw growing up, which is his mom emasculating his father. I just find a lot of what Cindy Watts says and does very disturbing, and it's very indicative of why Chris might have turned out the way he did. For instance, the peanut incident. Shanann took the kids to North Carolina to visit her parents and to visit Chris's parents. This is during that 5-week stretch where she was away from Chris, where he kind of heated up things with his mistress and became really cold towards Shanann. During that stay in North Carolina, Shanann took the kids to visit Chris's parents, their grandparents. And during that stay, despite knowing that Cece, Celeste, the youngest baby of Chris and Shanann, despite knowing Cece was allergic to peanuts, Cindy Watts placed peanuts out around the house in the vicinity of the child where she had easy access to them, and also served ice cream with peanuts in it to the children who were also present at the time. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, who? It's just like, who would do that? That is evil. That's kind of homicidal if you think about it. That's a little homicidal in and of itself. That's a little, I don't even know what to call that. That is disturbing. That's like something out of a Lifetime movie. So when you hear stuff like that and you hear how she intentionally set it out, not only just to get at Shanann and piss Shanann off, but also to possibly harm the child, it's no surprise the way things took such a dark turn with Chris, especially if there's this constant wedge being drawn between Chris's family and Shanann, which was there from day one. Chris's parents didn't even attend their wedding because they were so opposed to the union between Chris and Shanann from day one. So apparently that only was exacerbated over time, and that only intensified over time to the point where this woman is trying to sabotage Shanann and trying to actively harm their children just to spite Shanann. She's that vindictive and she's that vengeful that she would put the child in harm's way just to prove a point. That is narcissism at its finest. And so there are several text messages that Shanann sent, just heated text messages to Chris and to her friends describing the incident with the peanuts in North Carolina. This triggered a big fight with the in-laws, and Shanann kept the grandkids from the in-laws following that incident. Also, following that incident, Chris's mom, Cindy, and his dad both blocked Shanann on Facebook, and the dad did not attend Cece's birthday, I guess following the incident, despite Shanann not uninviting him. So naturally he's going to side with the mother because that's the person who emasculated him. He sort of marches to her tune, so of course he's going to follow anything Cindy sets forth as law. She dictates and he follows. And so we see that pattern throughout the entire documentary and throughout all the evidence that was exposed afterwards. I could not begin to tell you what I would have done if I was Shanann in that situation and this woman knowingly set these peanuts out and my daughter was deathly allergic to them. I could not promise you I wouldn't have done something on site on the scene. So I commend Shanann for taking the actions that she did, which was just, taking her children away to a safe place and refusing to let Cindy Watts see them. In consideration of that horrific fight with Shanann Watts and Cindy Watts regarding the peanut situation in North Carolina, it makes sense that Chris's issues with Shanann were manifold. He had multiple issues with her, and they were all big issues to him in his mind. He didn't see them as things that could be worked out or that could be improved. He just saw it as just another nail in the coffin, so to speak. So when he got to North Carolina, in that final week of their vacation in North Carolina, he joined them after like 5 weeks, I believe. And Shanann was pissed because when he got there, he was still really cold towards her. Did not kiss her, did not make love to her, despite being away from her from 5 weeks. That's when you know something is not right. When your man is not all over you after 5 weeks of separation, you know something is going on. And she rightfully suspected that he was getting intimacy from someone else, and she was completely accurate. But where I draw the line is when he was treating the kids coldly. So you know there's something not right going on there. And that's when you need to evaluate everything, take a step back, and probably separate. Because once he starts treating the kids cold, something's not right there. So you see Chris was probably siding with his parents in that scenario because he already had so much animosity and so much secret resentment built up in him against Shanann. He even got to the point where he told Shanann, despite being excited about their new baby on the way, he got to the point where he even told her he was fine with just having Bella and Cece and that he wasn't ready for another child. Anytime a guy says that to you after you're already carrying that new child, that is reason for concern. Cindy Watts is a character, and a lot of the things she says in the interviews and phone calls and in the letters following the conviction are very troubling, because they look to me that she is continuing to coddle her son as though he is some innocent, wronged victim in the relationship, as though he was in an abusive relationship and was driven to killing Shanann. If that was the case, then why would he harm his girls in that manner? You can listen to a few clips from the interview here, and the way she sort of paints this picture of Shanann as sort of the reason behind her own murder is very troubling. It's very disturbing that she would openly express this.
When and where did he meet Shanann?
They met, and he liked her, she liked him, but I don't think it was love at first sight or anything. They took a little while and I guess got to know each other and, dated. It was always a little strange that she always said a lot of things about Chris in front of me that I didn't like. Like, this isn't the kind of person I would date. He doesn't know how to do this, or he doesn't know how to do that. He looks like a skater boy. Look at his hair. Look how much stuff he puts on his hair. It was just on and on and on, and I just got a bad feeling.
And they got married in 2012. Did they get married in North Carolina?
They did. Mm-hmm.
How was that?
We didn't attend.
Really?
Mm-mm. We didn't attend because Shanann and I just couldn't get along. And I didn't like the way she treated him.
You think Chris loves Shanann?
Oh God, he loved her.
Shanann's pregnancy, and what did Chris tell you about that? Was he excited?
No, I don't think he was.
It seems to me that all along, Chris's mom, Cindy, may have fostered animosity between Shanann and Chris by constantly making Shanann out to be some sort of villain and using their rift as an example of how she's no good. And she just does all these little passive aggressive things to stir up a rift between them so that there wouldn't be peace. It was a destructive and divisive mentality she had because she wanted to separate Chris and Shanann all along. She just probably didn't realize it would end in the way it did. But she's definitely guilty of fueling the flames and fostering animosity between the two families. And it started from the wedding.
Ronnie called me and said that they're missing, and I thought, I don't believe it. I didn't believe they were missing. I believed that she was going to punish Chris. She was just going to punish him, take the girls, and just punish him. I had no idea of anything else. Christopher called.
We just want you to know we're behind you. Yes. And that we support you 100%. We know what she was like. Okay? We just love you. And they can record all they want.
I know, but just remember, like, she was a wonderful woman too. Okay.
We know that.
Like, I don't want the lasting memory of anybody to be like, something that was.
No, none of it. Take care of yourself. Be safe. Please be safe. Please be safe, because I just can't deal with this. If you're not safe, we just want you to be safe.
It's natural you'd want your child to be safe, and prison is a dangerous place, but he hasn't ended up there because he hasn't paid some parking fines. It just seems a bit bizarre to me that there's such a focus on his safety that his mother says it 5 times.
It also just makes me cringe and shudder when I hear the way she talks to Chris after his conviction and after he's sentenced to like 5 life sentences. To hear the way she talks to him like he's a child in need of protection. She's just begging him to be safe in prison. I'm just like, I can't fathom. I just can't. It just makes me wonder, does she have any regard for the actions he took? Does she have any regards for the 2 small angels who were brutally murdered and left in a dark, remote, disgusting, squalid, crude oil tank? How can you possibly beg for him to be safe and coddle him and call him sweetheart and darling? It's beyond my comprehension at this point. That's so far beyond a mother's love. That is something sick and twisted, and I think it's indicative of why he became what he became. They have a very dysfunctional family dynamic.
We love you.